don't want it.
Nope, don't want it. That's true. That's when I'm playing Legend of Zelda, right? Hello, everyone. Welcome. YouTube works. Welcome to another episode of the BCS Sports Show. I'm going to go to Twitch and make sure it actually is working.
I was going to say, we're actually on.
Hey, it's working. I figured out profiles. I just need to remember to actually switch the profile.
Click the right one.
I have to click. I was clicked into my personal one. I'm stupid.
As Spects has proclaimed me producer for some reason.
Isn't that what
I was able to
it's because of
make
Wednesday.
sure that the ship was righted. I know, but she's still kind of. You didn't put a specific quantifier on it when you said it last week. So
Wednesday.
The Wednesday producer.
Should I say Wednesday producers?
Extraordinary, yeah.
Wednesday.
Hell yeah.
But I mean, like, that experience, like, it carries over to these streams.
It does.
I can know when.
It's just less work for me. I can just be here.
Should
Everyone else can do it.
Listen in on the stream. Make sure CJ's microphone's going through too.
That is a good idea. I think that stuff still works, but it's at least like telling me the audio's going through.
I mean, there was just that one day randomly where you were you're struggling.
You know, I've done that an embarrassingly high number of times. Being honest.
Yep, and we can hear you. So
It's okay, CJ.
Fantastic.
We know you're out here trying your best.
I am trying my best. Like,
Whatever your best is. I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie, my best ain't very good. You know.
He's looking. What is going on over there? Oh, he needs his controller. He's pulling down the wall.
That's funny.
the effect is gone for the people.
You gotta be like
for that, like 5 seconds.
You gotta be like Pirates Software. Have a green screen behind the green screen.
I see the few people. Like there was even a few people watching as I did that.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I saw it. Confused the hell out of me.
How the same. How the same.
You that saw that. You guys are like, "What? That's not your room."
Don't live in a Harry Potter fantasy land in there.
Stuff, yeah, like
It's totally not AI generated background there.
Yeah, well,
is it AI generated?
I think it is. It is AI generated.
Actually, pretty good.
And I think I generated it while Spects and I were doing copy Specs.
Yep. I think so, 100%.
I think we were literally midstream, and I was like, "What is that like?" And then I like generated it. I was like, "I kind of like this," so I adjusted the picture, and like midstream, all of a sudden I had a new background.
Now that I'm looking at it, it is a bit cluttered. There's a lot of stuff, but it looks pretty good. It looks really good.
Decent looking room.
Yeah.
But like, no, I don't have all this stuff to. And I don't know anybody that does. That I can take a picture of it. And,
that's his man.
I mean,
cave,
if you look at it really closely, it looks more like animated than realistic looking.
It does,
which is part of why I blur it. So
that makes sense because I've seen this thing obviously like 50 times, and I had never even thought that it was AI generated.
It's more just like
it's just something.
It's just it's something to put behind me. I just wanted something where it's like my room, like we could break the wall again.
Yeah.
It's just a white wall behind me.
Right.
And I'm not gonna hang up a bunch of stuff in this apartment that I rent.
Yeah.
And then
there's no point.
However long. So it's like, no, I'm gonna just set up a green screen, and I got this green screen a long time ago, and it is just done so much.
I was gonna say it's paid for itself. It looks good.
I play video games on it, but like, you know, just put myself in the bottom right corner.
Right.
Make it super easy. I'm not having to worry about like, where do I put my box in relation to...
Where do I put my box?
Your box. All right. Sports stuff. Do we want to start with basketball? What?
I said, woo, sports.
Woo, sports. I'm pretty sure that's our title. Yeah, our title is just sports with a bunch of exclamation points.
More sports.
More sports. So,
the BCS sports show, and we talk about sports?
Yeah, that's crazy. I never would have guessed.
That's fucking wild.
So yeah, about Joel Embiid. He's done for the year. Is anyone really sad? I mean, Philadelphia people are sad.
And to think Paul George quit playing for this.
That's true. Podcast P did die for this, wasn't that? Or at least it took a hiatus.
Podcast Pete quit streaming for this, or quit doing podcasts for this.
So over under how many days until he's back doing podcasts again? A week?
Like
Like a week, maybe? 2 weeks? I think that's probably pretty fair. Like, it's really funny to me that he decided to do it right before this announcement. Almost like he knew. Do you think he knew?
Maybe.
I think he knew.
Maybe.
And then he'll be like,
Even-
then it makes him look like he tried to do something. And then he'll be like, oh, our best player is out. Whoopsie. I guess I'll do a podcast next week.
Whoopsie doopsie.
Who could have ever guessed? So, but yeah, it's a good thing the Eagles won the Super Bowl this year. Otherwise, I think the Sixers fans would be in a much rougher spot.
A worse place.
Yeah. Those people are crazy. All right.
Sorry. I'll be right back real quick.
Oh, you're good. All right. Do we want to...
I'll even leave you guys with my...
I was thinking about his picture where he's just talking.
Hell yeah.
No. I'm gonna one of these.
Oh,
Okay, cool.
fantastic.
Nice. All right. Do we want to talk about our Russell Wilson stuff that we were talking about
That was
earlier?
hilarious. Yes,
We should
please.
mention
that
all
was
of
great.
it. We should talk
That
about
was
this.
great. This is what happens when Bryce runs late. CJ and I just start talking, and we both make really weird takes that apparently are accurate.
Apparently. So yeah, I guess somehow Spects turned me into a Russell Wilson apologist. And I don't know how he did it. And
Oh, I do. Okay.
the thing is, I think you're right. Purdy is better than Russell Wilson has been. Or ever
Thank
was.
you.
I think you're right. If you look at the statistics, like the first couple years of their careers, this is not even close. Outside of the rushing yards. The rushing yards is big, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Wild, dare I say. Wild.
Yeah, I kind of hate you for that, but it's fine.
Because for half a second, you're like, wait a minute, no, that's not right. Oh my God, he's right.
Not only that you're right, because I'm like, Brock Purdy, average. But also because for more than a minute or two, you had me arguing in favor of Russell of Danger Russ, dude. And I
Danger Witch Russell Wilson.
Danger Witch, and I kind of hate it.
That like half second, or you had to defend Russell Danger Witch Wilson.
Yeah. And then we saw the stats, and I'm like, oh,
then you saw the light.
Shit. So yeah,
Then you saw the light.
Then I saw the light.
What were we talking about?
I made the wild comparison that Russell Wilson and Brock Purdy were basically one and the same player.
Yeah.
And comparing the stats, Brock Purdy's actually better than Russell Wilson when he won his Super Bowl.
For his first 2 years of his career.
His first 2 years.
Yeah.
Not excluded his rookie year because Russ played a full year. Mm-hmm. So their second and third season in the league, Brock Purdy was arguably the better player.
And he had me arguing for Russell Wilson for about 10 minutes.
So everyone who was saying everyone's like, Brock Purdy sucks. Yeah, he's Russell Wilson.
It's not bad.
So
yeah.
Not saying I'm demanding an apology.
I'm sorry. You were right.
There you go.
Brock
Thanks. That's so hard.
It was very difficult. But it ended up coming up because we were talking about the Deebo Samuel deal.
Yes.
I guess thoughts. Yay or nay, good or bad, either side.
I think it's going to work great for the Niners in the long run, honestly.
A 5th round pick, though? I have the hardest time sometimes getting evaluations.
I had the same thought
in the NFL.
I had the same thought, and then CJ looked it up. He's had one good year.
He's had one good year.
So realistically,
he had 1 year in 2021 when he went to the Pro Bowl. He had 1,400 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns on the ground. Every other year he's had his highest receiving total is 892 yards, and his most total touchdowns is 12 between rushing and receiving. Like,
kind of makes me wanna. So does that mean Ayuk is like the better?
They say they might trade Ayuk too.
mean, Brandon Ayuk has already had more 1,000-yard receiving seasons than Deebo Samuel. And
I think what made Deebo better, quote unquote,
Deebo had a better season this last season than
Ayuk. Well,
Ayuk also
injuries,
Ayuk blew out his ankle.
Yeah, the injuries were rough for Ayuk this year. And I understand, and I guess this is one thing that should be mentioned. Deebo obviously does more. He's like an H-back in a lot of cases, right? So, like, I understand it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, but I don't know. He's in this weird spot where he's talked about like he's like a top 10 wide receiver when he's just really not. You know, he's more of like a Cordero Patterson type offensive weapon type of thing, which is, I don't know.
I agree with that.
It's weird. Except for that 1 year. It was amazing. But it did bring up an interesting thing where it's only a 5th round pick. And it's weird how in the NFL, guys who have never played in the NFL and who you don't know who they are get higher trade packages. Like when teams trade up in the draft, those are way bigger than any single player that gets traded outside of like a quarterback or like these weird once in a blue moon type things.
I mean, the whole thing is I think wide receivers are slowly going to become similar to how running backs are. They're just going to be any idiot with a pulse can do it.
That's true, I guess. I mean, you think so?
It feels like it because they get. I mean, how many big wide receivers who are good all of a sudden get traded because their contracts are inflated and they eat up what other things that they need, that these teams need.
Right.
I mean, like for me, I agree. Like, cause like one of the ones that I look to, like on my team, is Puka versus Cup, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Rams felt. My question is did the Rams feel good enough about Puka to get rid of Cup, like to let him walk?
Mm-hmm.
Or did the Rams just feel like a wide receiver is kind of a dime a dozen? You can get like at least good production, maybe not as excellent, but like good production just anywhere else, or both.
I mean, probably.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
and that's my honest question, because when he came in the league, I knew having watched him at BYU, I knew he would be good. I didn't think he'd be as good as he has been.
He's really good.
And honestly, with the whole Stafford thing coming back, I'm like, what all the Rams really need to do, because like they ended the year pretty strong. They just need to throw a couple of really good weapons in there. Shore up the O-line just a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Not that their O-line was bad. It was just, maybe just add like one
guy.
One more, solid blocker. And maybe upgrade at tight end. And now that you've let Cup go, maybe get like I said, like another guy he doesn't have to be Cup. Just good.
Yeah, reliable. Like 80% of Cup.
Because I personally do think the reason that at least, and I do wonder if it's because I almost wonder if what's his name, why am I forgetting the Rams coach,
McVay.
I'm almost wondering if he just has a system that sets wide receivers up for success.
Yeah, and we admit, when me and Spects were talking earlier about Deebo, we kind of mentioned the same thing, where you wonder if some of these teams with these receivers are basically like, yeah, we'll just get anyone. We have the system. We will spend all that money elsewhere on like defense, and these coaches like McVay and Shanahan, whoever, will just kind of figure out the receivers. Like,
because the only thing I think that makes that has made Puka like elite to start his career
mm-hmm.
has been the fact that he runs very, very crisp, very, very specific routes. And he doesn't, and what I should say is like, he also, I think the one thing he does that not every receiver does is, and then that's what I think sets apart some of the good receivers, is what I should say, is the good receivers know when to not run the route exactly as it's designed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
A lot of what I think you'll notice if you kind of know the plays, like if you know like a general like, you know, in route sort of thing, it's probably 10 yards, right? Or it's probably
or 8 yards, or whatever it is.
10 yards. It's one of those two. It's either 5, 8, or 10. You know, like it's like in that range. And a lot of the time you'll see like Puka, for example, come up to the receiver. He'll read the defense, like where they're setting up, like if it's a zone, he'll see where they're setting up the zone, and he'll just start running in where the soft spot of the zone is.
Right.
But there's a lot of receivers, I think, that are average that are like, okay, I'm supposed to run 10 yards and then cut in, because that's where the quarterback expects me to be. Right. But I think the thing is you got a guy like Stafford combined with McVay's offense, combined with Puka, to be able to say, hey, if you go a couple yards short before you make your turn because that'll lead you to be more open, Stafford's going to read that just fine. Sort of thing. Like I do wonder, like, if there's some mixtures of that, and I don't know. I think Debo's got talent. So,
he does.
I'm still curious. Like with the production he did have, like 5th round still does seem even like you said, like even with some of the lack of it in past seasons, it still seems like, well, he's got a good ceiling. So like, how are you only getting, you know, a 5th round pick? And how are you feeling that a 5th round pick is better than what Debo can offer you for the next season? Or like, what is he, 1 more year or 2 more years on his contract?
I think it's 2.
And so like, how do you feel that the value of, like, I don't know how long rookie contracts are for the NFL, but like,
was it 5 years with a 6th option or 4 with a 5? Something like that?
4 with a 5th year option if you're first round pick. Otherwise, it goes down from there. Yeah.
There you go. And I think
so like a 5th round pick, yeah, like it's like you only get what, like a few years of control. So it's like, how do you feel that what you could get in the 5th round is necessarily better than what you can get from Debo?
Because it's an asset. It's just assets.
So, I know, but like you do wonder if Debo played a role in it. If Debo was like, I don't see this team coming back to be as successful as we were a couple.
I think that's an asinine take though from his part. If he's trying to be like, oh, I'll be better in Washington.
I'm not saying, I'm not saying he would be right if he does think that. But like, maybe he went through this past year and was like, without McCaffrey, what are we?
Yeah, and
it's not like he wasn't exactly healthy. I don't think he's played in a
No, I know, but like that's what I'm saying. Like he may have watched the entire season though as it went along and went, if McCaffrey's not playing, and McCaffrey's not exactly the pinnacle of health.
True.
And so it's like,
I don't even think it was that. I think he realized he wasn't going to be the number 1 receiver. I don't think he's even the number 2 receiver anymore.
And that could also played a role in it too.
Honestly,
and that may be a better.
Truthfully, going into this year, he's probably the number 3 because he's going to be behind Ayuk. He's probably behind Jennings. He parcels the slot, but it's like you're the number 3 guy in there. Oh, and by the way, they have a really good tight end and a really good passing running back. So his 1 year where he in 21 where he was like amazing, like he hasn't come close to that since last 2023 at 800 yards. Yeah. But it's not like he.
Yeah, you do wonder though.
Yards since.
Well, and like if that's all like what it led to, like if he was the one who played the role, not so much the 49ers in him getting traded, it's like, do you not have confidence in your abilities to say, look, they may think I'm the 3rd option, but I will like force them to remember that I am good enough to be that number 1 op. I don't know.
Well, and part of me thinks it may have been the 49ers anyway, just based on the contract. Like,
well, they had to.
They saved
I think
$22
they had to
million a year, right? Like,
I think they had to get rid of one. I think they either had to get rid of Ayuk or Samuel, and I think Ayuk's the better pick because here's here's what he's going to be he's not going to be number one in Washington. He's going to be behind McLaurin. McLaurin last year in 17 games, 117 targets, 82 receptions for almost 1,100 yards with 13 touchdowns. I don't know who their number 2 was this year.
Looks like it was Zacchaeus.
So I mean, it's an
Brown,
upgrade. It's an upgrade there. However,
Sure.
I'm gonna make the argument that I don't think it necessarily is gonna make McLaurin better because you're still gonna double team McLaurin. You're not. I don't think people are overly terrified of Samuel on the other side.
Yeah.
Because no offense. Looking at like defenses out there, I mean Cooper DeJean's gonna be on him, and I think Cooper DeJean's gonna cover him like white on rice.
Sure. My question is, so my other question is with the guy with Purdy at quarterback this year. Without McCaffrey, he looked very vulnerable, but also he didn't have anybody there. So my question
everyone was hurt.
Everyone was hurt.
All on Purdy not being as talented without an elite running back next to him. Or is it just a matter of they didn't have anybody back there at all, so the focus was all on
their best offensive player was arguably Deebo Samuels this year, and we know what happened.
And exactly. But if your best offensive player is a wide receiver, as a quarterback, that means you have to get the ball to him, right? And so
not necessarily.
Sure, I mean you could run.
Well, here's my counterpoint. Well, no, but here's my counter argument to that. Your team, the Rams, right? For years, they had one wide receiver, Cooper Kupp, and a quarterback, and they force-fed him the ball because that's all they had. Shanahan's offense, the Shanahan offense isn't really built to force-feed one guy. It's not how that offense works. It's a very...
You need everybody participating.
You don't even necessarily need everyone to participate. They run a lot of stuff basically off the play action. And if they can't that's why like every running back the Niners have had was quality because they have to run the ball for those bootlegs to work because they're all, and CJ knows this because it's the Shanahan offense. Broncos, yeah. They have to have another component because it's not built for them to be force feeding one by not even one dimensional. It can't force feed it. The running game sustains the passing game. So if they don't have a decent one of them, their main weapon, the play action, goes away because that's the
definition of saying you can't be one dimensional in that offense because it kills the other dimension.
Yeah, it's too.
Yeah, no. What I'm saying, one dimensional is exactly what you're saying. It's just
it's too balanced because that's the Shanahan offense. That's been the Shanahan the Shanahan family offense.
Yep.
And that still does, like, for me. I don't know. Maybe for me, I'm too hard on certain players, but like, I still wonder about like Brock Purdy, how talented he really is as a quarterback. I think he's better than like his draft position was, for example. Because
1,000%.
He's a no matter
he's
what
a
anyone
steal at his draft position, but
the simple fact is, and no one wants to admit it because for whatever reason, Brock Purdy's a top 10 quarterback in the league. There, you can't discredit what he's doing. And if you want to say he's a system quarterback, he's only because of Shanahan. Well, guess what? Jared Goff is probably because of now who's in Chicago. So all these quarterbacks are system quarterbacks. It's just the way it is. The ones who aren't are Tom Brady and Peyton Manning.
One to go to though, because I think he is.
No. My point is
a system quarterback.
No, that's what I just said. Like Jared Goff was only good because of who's in Detroit, or now he's in Detroit.
But what you said is if Purdy's a system quarterback, then Goff's a system quarterback. It's like, well, Goff, I will accept that Goff is a system quarterback. I am still, what I would say about Purdy is, I think for me the jury's still out on him because this last year he struggled a bit more, quite a bit more than the year before. But yes, there were the pieces around him that weren't there for him. But my question is, could you slide him in like with Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, some of the great quarterbacks of yesterday? You could slide them into almost any team, and they would produce for you. They were great quarterbacks.
That's my point.
But my question is, could you, if you took Purdy and put him on the Jets, would he still be a solid quarterback, or would he regress?
Well, it's the Jets. I think everyone would regress, but yeah.
But that's the point. But that's the point. If you took Tom Brady now and put him on the Jets, he would be solid. No, he'd regress, of course, but I think he'd still be.
If they played to their maximum potential, sure.
I think. Well, no, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he would lead them to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying I'm saying he'd probably outperform Rodgers, and he'd probably have pushed them to at least be on the bubble of the playoffs, in the discussion. And obviously he would never play for them. But so this is the whole
It's a crazy hypothetical. Yeah. I'm not. But what I'm saying is and Tom Brady is obviously he had the greatest career of all time for any quarterback. So So it's an extreme example. But I'm saying there were other quarterbacks around that time too, like Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, who
but even then.
But who I think you could have,
Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers, I think, is a good example of a guy who performed well through a lot of years that he had lack of talent around him.
Because the man just chugged the ball up and said, "Please catch it."
Yeah, but he also wasn't.
Isn't that just how you play football, though?
He also had LaDainian Tomlinson, who could just run up the middle.
But those were his good years, or those were his years where he had extra talent.
I hate Phillip Rivers still,
but
I will never let it go.
But what I'm saying is you did have a solid 10 years there where he was pushing them, and I think Phillip Rivers
the man went 27 and 20 interceptions to touchdowns. What the fuck?
Phillip Rivers did?
2011, 2011, 27 and 20 interceptions to touchdowns.
But what was their record?
Their record, 8-8. His best year, the 14 and 2 year. The man went 22 and 9 touchdowns, interceptions, and Jesus Christ on the cross. The man had a 61% completion percentage. Jesus Christ.
It's not great.
Holy hell. How, dude, LT carried this team. My God.
LT was incredible.
I'm not trying to sit here and sell you on Phillip Rivers. Is not what but I'm saying, he was one of those quarterbacks, though, where he had enough talent to still be able to.
Phillip Rivers couldn't stop the Chargers from charging.
I don't know if anyone can really.
I don't know.
I think
it's just a curse, and can you really fight against a curse if you're?
It's kind of like what the Pelicans are dealing with right now. Some of these teams just are cursed.
This is his stat lines are just magical to look at. Good gravy.
You know what's funny is that 27 touchdown, 20 pick. He made the Pro Bowl that year. Isn't that great?
I know, that's wild.
Isn't the Pro Bowl such a good measure of talent?
That's why it's a funny thing. There's a funny thing on Twitter where they compare
always back to
I forget who they're usually comparing. No, but no. But they're comparing. I forget who they compare to. What's his name? That's on the Dolphins. No. We're talking
Tua.
No. His backup this last year.
Who the fuck knows who that is?
Who the hell?
The guy who was on the backup on the Ravens for a while.
Huntley.
Huntley.
Yeah.
Huntley is technically a Pro Bowl quarterback.
That is true, which is the stupidest shit.
2020 or 2021, where a bunch of guys just kept calling out, and they were like, "Hey, Huntley, you want to come and play in the Pro Bowl?" And he was like, "Sure."
Bro, hold on.
Will never be.
He was 2-2 that year with 658 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. Pro Bowl.
No, exactly. It's not like that's the thing. Like it's funny.
The Pro Bowl doesn't matter.
And I think they compare it's like Huntley to Zach Wilson or something. I don't remember, but like
Huntley
and they're like
is
he's
Zach
a Pro
Wilson.
Bowler, and I'm like, guys, let's just.
God, that is not even a real award. There's no way. That's so funny.
What's worse, the Pro Bowl or the NBA All-Star Game?
Oh, the Pro Bowl's still worse. The NBA All-Star Game is bad, but I think the NBA All-Star Game issue is more around everything around the All-Star Game and not necessarily the game itself. Like the whole TNT crew and Kevin Hart in this last one was horrific.
But anyways, yeah. There are still a few things I wonder about with like wide receiver values and quarterback values. That's all any of my points were supposed to be is just like
no, I mean
and then for me it's not that I'm trying to make the point of this or that.
Right.
I'm throwing these points out as saying like there are these alternative possibilities.
Never.
With the fact of like, how much does the quarterback affect to the wide receiver value? How much does the
I don't want nuance in sports conversations. How dare you?
LeBron or MJ? Who do you have? Like that's.
Oh, speaking of that, can I want to bring this up because this came across my feed last night, and Bryce will appreciate it. I have found the Nick Wright. I mean, this shouldn't be a shocker.
How are we? Okay, Nick Wright. Yep.
Yeah, Nick Wright. Ben Verlander, I am deeming the Nick Wright of baseball. I hate his man.
I don't know who this is.
So Ben Verlander, the dopey younger brother of Justin Verlander, who rides his coattails, and perpetual dick rider of Shohei Ohtani, just continues to piss Angel fans off to no end. So where he got into a grudge match with the Super Halo Bros because they're just sick and tired of his shit. And to where I deemed him the Nick Wright of sports of baseball. So last night they were like, so the Super Halo Bros are the Locked On Angel guys, and they still use like a separate account every so often.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Verlander just goes like, does the whole like, I was right about Ohtani for many years, and he's like, and they said, where were you in 2018? He said, for playing pro ball and telling teammates that Shohei Ohtani's going to be absolute all-star. They replied, and us Angel fans standing by him, and everyone said he couldn't pitch it, Tommy John, 2020, etc. So I don't think we have to admit anything about you being right when you got your Fox Sports show after all the hard times. And then he says, I don't understand the hate. You know how much I've gotten this app for how much I talk about him, including from passing, who wrote that he was a high school level hitter. Now everyone talks about him all the time. Yeah, because he's fucking good. And they said, okay, I'll explain. Claiming that everyone owes you some kind of acknowledgement for being the Shohei guy. We didn't start taking heat for highlight him until 2021. You gloomed on his breakout in 21. Surely you can see how Angel fans feel a little miffed. Now, for the record, I just think he's similar to Nick Wright because it's not a stance. You took the easiest stance in the world. Well, Shohei Ohtani's the best player in the game. Fucking congratulations. You're no better than Nick Wright saying LeBron James is a great basketball player. And say Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback. Congratulations. You took the easiest take ever. Trying to say, like, I was the guy first is an absolute joke.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy to claim to be the first on a generational superstar.
Because all the takes up to that point were, he can't do both. And then 21 came out and he did it for 3 straight years and should have almost damn near won 3 straight MVPs. But yeah, please take your victory lap saying that you were right about him for years.
You and I were on the top of the Spects podcast during all the years that he kept getting like Tommy John surgeries, and we were going, yeah, he could still pitch.
Yeah, I just said,
the only thing you and I ever said was, well, maybe he should, be like a reliever of some sort. Like,
yeah, that's still the thought is like, just, I mean, I still say now after the second one, like, I don't think they're going to get a lot out of him.
I was gonna say how long that is still a question for me is how long can Shohei sustain being a pitcher and a hitter and being elite at both positions.
And the whole thing is with that contract, the thing that people don't realize is he got paid to do both. And he's probably not going to do both. So now you're paying $70 million to a designated hitter. And then he looks stupid.
They'll trade him in left field and,
No, they're going to sign Kyle. They'll probably sign. I don't think they'll ever let him play the field.
No, I got it too. That was a throwaway joke. So
no, I know, but it's just like, even if he played the field, he could play first. All right, yeah, Freddie Freeman, I guess, retires, and you could put him at first base, I guess. I mean, when's that gonna happen?
I guess I didn't realize Shohei never plays the field.
He didn't.
It looks like he played a couple games with the Angels in outfield, but outside of that,
the Angels where he had to.
Because when they were in the NL.
Yes, that's right.
I guess you know what? I guess realistically, if you wanted to make a funny argument, and you could, Freddie Freeman's deal expires in 2 years, the end of the 2027 season.
Mm-hmm.
So where Freeman at that point would be 36. Probably not going to sign another deal. If he is, it'll probably be a 1-year deal, and it probably won't be with the Dodgers because he can't play the field. I guess argumentatively, if you wanted to, you could make the case Shohei plays the field in 21, and once he retires. I mean, at that point, he'd be 31.
Thing is, though, do you think the Dodgers even care if they're paying $70 million to a designated hitter? At that point, do they care? They are making all this money because they have probably the biggest international baseball superstar, right?
I think, you know what? I
spend money.
I think
it don't matter.
I think they would care to a point, but I don't know what that point would be. Because at some point, it's a game of, regardless of how they want to look at it, at some point it's going to be a diminishing return.
Yeah, but you go into the deal knowing that regardless if he's playing just DH or pitcher hitter,
But here's the thing that I think they overlooked, and this is something that no one wants to talk about, is the dude's arm's a ticking time bomb. That arm's going to explode at some point. And I know,
he's had 2 Tommy Johns already.
He's had 2 Tommy John surgeries in 7 years.
Yeah, no, he's it's amazing that he's doing what he's doing right now, even.
But the whole thing is,
how long is that arm going to sustain itself?
Oh, that's the thing. I don't think it's going to sustain himself for
you're
13
right.
years.
And I think that's the point you're trying to make is just not only yes,
10 years,
any of these 10-year contracts are the you get a diminished return towards the end. That's why whenever people lambast the Angels for signing Pujols to that long contract, that was the only way they were going to sign him at all, was sign him on a long contract, know he's going to be diminishing those last couple of years.
But here's the question I would want answered, and the Dodgers want to answer it because they're just gonna be like, At a certain point, regardless of whatever, there's gonna come a time where, like I said, that arm's gonna go flying into the stands at some point. Yeah. But the whole thing is how at some point are you gonna be able to essentially just keep making your face a guy who doesn't do everything? And granted, I know they've done it before, like David Ortiz and stuff. But I mean, also too, there's also the slim chance that the man gets caught because he was a gambler. I know, a lot of he was discredited, but it's the whole thing of, I think everyone assumes he knew, regardless of everything. There's no way he didn't know.
Yeah.
Which is
getting paid well to be the fall man.
No, that's probably part of it. But my point, the point being is, injuries or legality, injury or legality, I don't think he's going. It wouldn't shock me if he only plays 5 years and then has to retire. Whether it's the arm completely off, and the production just tanks.
Thing is, if you're the Dodgers,
I see him probably pulling more like a Rendon type thing.
He's just never playing
I'm
again.
getting the contract, so you guys are just gonna pay me, and I'm gonna keep showing up.
Thing is, though, like, again, do the Dodgers care? They got a World Series already out of it.
Yeah.
Just designated hit him.
I guess no.
You get 50 homers, 100 RBIs every year for the next 4 years.
Because the whole thing is they're making money off this contract, off of everything.
It's an investment. It's not about like, hey, is the contract
but the whole
worth
thing,
it?
see,
From a
but the
baseball
thing is,
perspective.
and I think this is the part that gets overlooked, is if Guggenheim sells it within the next 10 years. I'm not saying they will, but if they do, the amount of deferred money that they put on credit is going to devalue the shit out of that franchise, because the amount of red now is astronomical,
right?
And that's the part I think that people are overlooking, and it's one of those bits where it's going to cause a strike, despite whatever other baseball podcast is talking about. Is they want to pick on they'll pick on the Rockies, and they pick on the Pirates, they pick on the Marlins.
Hell yeah.
Where if you're thinking logically, and they're all like, well, why are we mad about these teams? And all, and this, that, and the other. Because and I understand that people are like, why are we siding with billionaires? They're, fuck the ultra rich. Whatever.
Agreed. Yeah.
But if you're an owner in any sport, and we all know it's keeping up with the Joneses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say realistic. I mean, granted, if you're making billions, you're making billions. But let's just play a hypothetical. You're a businessman who makes money on, billions. Your net worth is over $1 billion, right? Your business is, every major organization's probably worth over $1 billion at this point.
Yeah.
But if you know your income, and we know every team operates in the red, but you don't want to necessarily operate that far in the red because you don't think, whatever the reason is. If you know there's a team out there that can just write fuck you money to any player out there, and you think your player is going to be next because all you have in the back of your head is, that team on the West Coast can write blank check after blank check. Why do you even try to compete?
Yeah. That's
the whole thing, is that's the problem we're having. Whether granted, I do think they need to put a salary floor in place.
Agreed.
Because these guys aren't spending. But the other side of that coin you have to look at and say, if you're the Dodgers with Paul Scates, who's going to be a free agent by probably 2030, 2031 at the latest. Pittsburgh ain't sure as shit gonna get outbid by somebody if they don't sign him tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone's going to be angry that they didn't try. They didn't try to sign Skeens and they let the Dodgers have him. Why wouldn't he go to the Dodgers when they can just say, hey, we're going to write you fuck you money and see if anyone else wants to play ball? The Mets can write fuck you money. Let's see if anyone wants to play ball. That's the problem that no one wants to talk about, is when you have teams that can basically write fuck you money to 99% of the league, why bother?
Yep.
You're in a position where you're not going to do anything anyway. And all the players can whine and bitch and say, well, why aren't they can send money, why can't they? Because they don't want to get into a bidding war with these high talented guys. Because all it takes is the Dodgers saying, hey, we'll write you 10 years, $300 million. Fuck it, let's go. The Mets want to do it. 10 years, $750 million? Fuck it, let's do it. 10 years, 310? Fuck it, let's do it. The Rockies ain't gonna sign that shit.
No,
The Pirates ain't gonna sign that.
And that's what's made baseball. I have stopped caring over the last decade is because of that. I know my team will never.
It's gonna make me stop caring.
Yeah, 100%.
It's going to kill the sport because you're gonna have 25 out of 30 teams that can't spend the money.
Yeah.
And all the fatheads are gonna be like, well, it's everyone else's fault. They can do this too. No, they can't.
No, they can't. They don't have the resources to do
They
that.
don't have a great like one of the funniest things was they were comparing the Dodgers television rights deal to the Reds rights deal. It's night and day.
Oh yeah, it's got to be ridiculous.
I'm like, this is the problem. Is all these people are like, well, they didn't spend money, motherfucker. They don't get money. They don't have anything coming in. Revenue sharing is not going to pay for it. So you're in the position of why bother, and no one wants to admit that the why bother's the problem. I mean, how great would it have been to hear like Colorado was in on one of these guys, but it's like they know they're not going to fucking get them.
It never happens. Like we have a generational superstar. We're like, let's not pay him, or we pay him and then he gets mad because we can't bring in other talent. Because
they can't bring, it's the whole thing of you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, and then they try to fix it by bringing in a washed Chris Bryant and
so it's just why, and it's sick. Like I can't blame these people for being like it's stupid.
Yeah, it's
because that's what what they did. They did it to themselves. And are next year? Are they going to try to fix it? Probably not.
No, and that's why baseball, as we've known, has been kind of waning in popularity since 50s.
I don't think it's even necessarily waning on popularity.
What I'm saying is it has been like decade over decade, 100%, and that's because I think there's much better competitive balance in the NFL and NBA, who have been on the rise since that time. NFL's always been up top, but the NBA has risen in that time because
I mean it set a 7. The World Series set a 7-year high.
7-year high, sure.
It's gone. I mean, it's gone up. It's done better than the NBA. So but the thing I wonder here is, and this is the one thing the NFL does do better than any sport, is the Super Bowl could be fucking Tennessee and Arizona.
No one cares.
And 100. Nobody gives a shit. 100. Like the Super Bowl will still generate 50 million.
Oh, easy.
Because it owns the day. It owns that day.
There's been people talking about making it a national holiday the day after. That's how big it is. No,
I literally said I am totally for making it Saturday. Like make it fucking Super Bowl Saturday.
No, I want another day off. Give us some Monday off. Yeah, Monday off.
But I mean, like that's the whole thing. Is like, they can't do that, right? I mean, yeah, you can argue like the NBA is in a worse spot than baseball is right now because the NBA, for whatever reason, has just turned into a boring shit show for whatever reason.
I do think, though, the NFL is unique in that championship game. It's one game. Whereas you talk about like the NFL or the NBA, it's a series, right? So you don't know what the day is that the championship is actually going to be determined, right? Because it can go, which I think really hurts in terms of that.
I think too is the NBA is in a differently unique spot because the NBA, all its series are 7 games. Baseball has a 3-game, a 5-game, and 2 7s.
Yeah.
And those shorter series, anything can happen. In the NBA,
weird. The better team's going to win over that 7 games in the NBA, like 95% of the time. Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, like I said, one's going to cause us a work stoppage for however long. You're going to have a work stoppage next year in baseball. Yep. The NBA has its own problems because the three's just boring and it bleeds into college and it's just dog shit.
Well, college is just dog shit basketball in general. But the homogeneity of the NBA, people are not super into. Like, that is for sure.
It's just boring. It's dribble down the court, shoot a 3. Dribble down the court, shoot a 3. Dunk, shoot a 3. Dunk.
The Nuggets, who are last in the NBA in 3-point attempts. Let's go. We're breaking the mold.
Congratulations, you're dunking more. I want to see the mid-range jumper come back.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Jokic is really
There's no mid-range jumper. It's wild.
There really isn't, except for Kevin Durant. I think he's the last guy left. Him and DeMar DeRozan, I think.
Yeah, there is no mid-range jumper.
I think for me, the thing I want back in the NBA is more plays, because the plays that are run in the NBA, it's literally just screen a guy to open up a 3-point shooter. Screen a guy to open up a 3-point shooter. Pass it around a bunch until a guy gets open. Oh, hey, open guy, shoot a 3. Cool. Back down the court.
Bryce, were you here when we were talking about the Kobe Bryant is a worse clutch time shooter than LeBron James?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was all we talked about last week. And then
things blend together.
So
I digress. Whatever. I'm off my soapbox.
Well, either way, sports are dying, and we've been at this for 50 minutes, so I think it's time for some Fortnite. Hell yeah. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back on Wednesday with...
It's going to be the only podcast next week, by the way.
What's that?
It's going to be the only podcast next week.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Next Saturday, I cannot do it. But
he's not going to do it, and I have a long day Sunday, so I figured let's just take it off.
Hell yeah. We'll just take that one off. But
I'll just stream that night.
Hell yeah.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
BCS podcast with just Bryce.
_Bryce. Yeah. He'll be doing it in place of the stream.
Hell yeah.
Maybe I'll sneak in and play a couple games.
All right, but thank you guys for watching. Peace.